Hello everyone, a very good morning. My name is Prashant. I welcome you all to AWS Architect Training by Edureka. Guys, can you quickly confirm if my voice is audible and is my screen visible to all of you? Yes, fantastic. Couple of people already confirming. Great. Thank you so much for the quick confirmation. So we'll wait for another 2 to 3 minutes and then we'll start with our today's session. Okay. All right. Once again, a very good morning. My name is Prashant. I welcome you all to AWS Architect Training by Edureka. Guys, those who have just joined in, can you quickly confirm if my voice is audible and is my screen visible to all of you? Yes. Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the quick confirmation. So now let's move forward from where we left yesterday. So in our yesterday session, we understood on how to launch an EC2 instance. We saw how to connect to your Windows machine and how to connect to your Linux machine. In addition to that, we also talked about, you know, the other parameter there on how to attach additional volume, how to modify the existing volume, like that was kind of doing a scaling, right? So today we will continue further. So I'll quickly go back, launch an EC2 instance now, and today we will talk on how to make your EC2 instance act as a web server. Okay, so I'll say launch instance. I'll choose this Linux AMI. Remaining parameters I'm leaving it to default. Okay, and I'm launching my Linux machine. So I left the other parameters to default and I'm launching my Linux machine. All right. So while this Linux machine is coming up, cool. So I'll try to connect to this Linux machine. Select this machine, say connect, SSH client. All right. So now I'm connected to my Linux machine. Okay. Now I'm connected to my Linux machine. So I'll take access as super user. I'll say super user do minus I, right? So I have now connected as root user, right? So next, since I want to make this instance act as a web server, I should have HTTP daemon running on this machine. I want to make this instance act as a web server. So I need to have HTTP daemon running on this machine. Don't we need putty to connect to Linux machine? So I have SSH client installed on my machine, so I can connect via command prompt also. If you don't have SSH client, you can use putty. There are multiple ways you can connect to it. Okay. So yesterday I showed you how to connect using putty. Since I have SSH client, I'm directly connecting. Bharat, cool. So now that I want to make this instance act as a web server, I'm gonna install something called as HTTP daemon. So for that purpose, I'll say yum install HTTPD. Okay. So I say yes, I want to install. Done. After installing that, I need to ensure that HTTP daemon is running. So I'll say service HTTPD start. This will ensure my HTTP daemon is running. My HTTP daemon is in active mode. Then I'll say check config HTTPD on. So even if I shut down machine and I start my machine again, by default the HTTP daemon should auto start. For that I'm saying check config HTTPD on. Okay. After doing this configuration, I'll say cd /var/www/html. Okay. Now I'm going to insert the HTML file here so that we can make our EC2 instance act as a web server, right? So I copy this, come back here, I say vi index.html. right? I paste my code, say escape colon WQ. So now we have made our EC2 instance act as a web server. So if I copy this IP address of my EC2 instance and if I paste it here, you notice the website. Yes, everyone, I've shared the IP address with all of you. Can you guys quickly open it on your browser and confirm if you're able to see, how to make your EC2 instance act as a web server? You should be able to see this web server. You should be able to see this web page. Yes, guys, can I have quick confirmation? Are you able to see a similar web page? Yes. So that is how you convert or how you make your EC2 instance act as a web server. Okay. Now depends on your business requirement. You can make it as complex as you want, or you can make it as simple as you want. The choice is always yours. You use so many commands on SSH client to make it web server. Does it need it? Obviously, it is needed. Do we have to remember all this SSH command from the exam point of view? No. All right. So now one thing which I want to talk about is your security group. One thing which I want to talk or discuss with all of you guys is about security group. So let us edit a security group. Give me 1 second. Yeah. In this web server, where will be the images file stored? Image file stored. So you define in your application. Wherever you want to store, you define that in your application. The choice is always yours. And Nimai, these are the list of commands which we executed. If you have multiple HTML under slash where which one will display? Index.html by default it will display. Now if you have another file with index1.html, then here in the web URL you need to say index1.html. You need to define path. By default it will only display index.html. Are we clear? Can you show me your please? I did not understand. What do you want to check? Edureka guest. Here I just created a simple web page. I did not create web page to any store image or anything. But if you want, you define it in your application where you want to store, whether you want to store in C drive or something, and accordingly it will store your images. Okay. Now talking about security group, pay attention to this. Talking about your security group. Security group is nothing but a kind of firewall on the instance level. Okay. Now, by default, if you would have noticed when I've created in the step 6 there, it asks us to define a security group right here. Configure security group. So what does it signify is, on this particular instance, what kind of traffic do you want to allow or deny? What kind of traffic do you want to allow or deny? So I say right now, this is the security group which I have associated. So there are two types of traffic, inbound and outbound. Now understand very clearly, inbound is nothing but traffic coming to the server, that is called as inbound traffic. Traffic leaving the server, that is called as outbound traffic. Traffic coming towards your server is your inbound traffic. Traffic leaving your server is your outbound traffic. Now help me understand the direction. I open my laptop, I say www.xyz.com. So for xyz.com, for the server where xyz.com is hosted, for that server, is that an inbound traffic or an outbound traffic? Everyone. For the server, is that an inbound or an outbound? Agree everyone that it's an inbound traffic? Yes. From that server, you're accessing www.google.com, facebook.com, youtube.com. What kind of traffic is that? That's an outbound traffic. From the server, you're accessing xyz.com, google.com, facebook.com, whatever. So traffic leaving your server is called as outbound traffic. The traffic coming towards your server is called as inbound traffic. Are we all clear with that? Yes, fantastic. Now in security group, when you're configuring, it is defined on two parameters. What kind of traffic you want to allow and what kind of traffic you want to deny. So for example, this is the security group associated with our EC2 instance currently. So I say edit inbound rule. Right now all traffic is allowed. Let's say I want to allow only HTTP and I don't want to allow from everywhere. I want to allow only from my IP. And I say allow SSH. And I say allow SSH from anywhere. Okay. And I save this rule. Now, if you try, you'll not be able to see this web page, but I'm able to still see the web page. Everyone, please check. For you, the web page should no more be visible. Yes. Are you able to access web page now? When you refresh? No. It should not be accessible. Is it accessible? It would say site not reachable, something like that. No. Arun, please check your browser cache. It should not be accessible. If it is from cache, then that's a different discussion. When your browser they are giving you from the cache, or try in a different browser, it is not accessible. Okay. Site unreachable, right? So why site is unreachable is because here in the security group in the inbound direction, HTTP traffic is allowed from which IP address? Only my machine's IP address, right? So all do you understand what is the purpose of security group, everyone? Yes. So security group will act as a first level of firewall on the instance level, so that it will decide what kind of traffic to be allowed, what kind of traffic to be denied. Okay, so that way it will help your business to protect your business resources. It will help your business to protect your business resources. Cool. So that was about your security group. That was about how you make your EC2 instance act as a web server. So now moving a bit forward. It's taking so long. Give me one sec. Yeah, great. So now I have my EC2 instance running and I have my application hosted or web server hosted on my EC2 instance. Now, yesterday we saw how to create backup of specific data which is stored in a volume. Yes, yesterday we saw that how to create snapshot of your volume. So that will create snapshot of the data which is stored in that particular volume only. Agree with me? That will create backup of the data which is stored in that particular volume. Yes or no? Right? Now let's say I want to create backup of this EC2 instance also. Right? How do I do that? So understand very clearly what I'm trying to say. Yesterday we saw if this is your EC2 instance and if this is your volume, we saw how to create backup of this volume alone. Now what I'm trying to say is how to create backup of this entire EC2 along with your data. Okay. So if you want to create backup of entire EC2 along with your data, right, you have to select that instance, say action, say images, say create image, give a name. Okay. Say create image, give a name, say create image here. Okay. Now this will start creating an image. Now what that image is? That is nothing but creating your own custom AMI. Yesterday we saw on how to use default AMIs. If I want to create my own custom AMI, this is how I create. So my AMI is getting created. It would take a couple of minutes for this AMI to be completely ready. Then I'll show you what is the advantage of having your AMI created. Okay. So let us wait for AMI to be completely ready. Meanwhile, anyone has any question? Snapshot is nothing but a backup. That is true. Any questions? Should we name the AMI? The choice is yours. It's not mandatory again. But it is always a better practice to name it so that you can easily filter out and you know what is the purpose of AMI. Usually it's a kind of identifier which is easy for you to reference. After action, what we need to do, what we need to select. So all you have to do is select instance, say action, images and template, create image. Okay, give a name. Will this AMI be chargeable? AMI will be chargeable, but it will not be equivalent like an another instance running. Okay, it will only charge for this snapshot which is created as part of your AMI. Okay. So we are still waiting for it to be available. Any other question? All right, now my AMI is available. My AMI is available. So I'll tell you how to use this AMI. Pay attention to this. So I go to instances. I say launch instance. I say launch instance. Earlier we selected this Linux AMI. Now instead of selecting Linux AMI, I'll click on my AMI. Do you notice our AMI available here? So I select this. I define all the other parameters. Okay. I'll define all the other parameters and I'll launch an EC2 instance. Pay attention to this. Okay. So now I have launched an instance from my own AMI, which I have created. Yes. Custom AMI. Let's say as an identifier. Everyone, am I making sense? So I have launched this new machine from my own custom AMI. Agree with me? Yes or no? Rather than using plain Linux AMI, we have used our own AMI. Now attention everyone. Now I'll copy the public IP address of the machine. I paste it here. I hit enter. Did I make any configuration? Did I make any configuration on this newly added instance? No. But do I see the web page? Yes. So did you understand in what scenario we will use our custom AMI? Let's say you want to create multiple servers of one similar configuration. Instead of configuring each and every server, instead of sitting back and configuring each and every server, you create your own custom AMI and in a single go you could launch multiple servers. Am I making sense with this? Anyone has any question? So we created our AMI. Using that AMI, we created our EC2 instance. Agree? And this newly created EC2 instance has a similar configuration as that of your existing one. Yes or no? So existing one is 113.223.87.41 and we could see this is the configuration. Now this newly one has the same configuration without we having to do anything, right? Just by launching your machine using this custom AMI, we are able to see our instance configuration. So this way it will save a lot of your manual task of creating instance, then configuring instance and all of that. You want to have multiple servers with a similar configuration, just create one server, configure that, create an image of that, and using that image launch other remaining servers. So that way all your additional job would be avoided. And also any point in time if this instances crash in future, right, any point of time if this instances crash in future, you can use that custom AMI and launch your new machine. Whether custom AMI can be added multiple times, absolutely yes. So while launching an instance, the choice is yours. While launching an instance, the choice is yours. Whether you want to use default AMIs of AWS or you have your own custom AMI, you can use that also. Clear, everyone? Is custom AMI available to others? By default, it is private. By default, your custom AMI is private. But if you want to make it public, click on permission, okay? And you can share. You can say edit and you want to share it with some other AWS account. So you can give their account number and they'll be able to view or they'll be able to use. But by default, it is always private. Are we clear? Venkat, is your question answered? Rajaguru, is your question answered? I assume that Edureka guest is Guru. Rajaguru. Can we say AMI is a backup of server instance and its configuration? Absolutely yes. So that's what I started with. Yesterday we saw how to take backup of your volume. So today we saw how to take backup of your AMI. Are there any charges to use an AMI? There are no charges to use custom AMI. It is not going to charge you anything separately for your custom AMI. Cool. So now moving, if I remove the root, AMI still exist? You mean if I delete the root instance, will AMI still exist? Is that your question? Yes. Now if I terminate this, okay, still AMI will exist. I terminated this original machine, okay, still my AMI will exist. If when 3 times custom AMI is launched means 1 I can keep public, 2 can be kept private, what does it mean? Why you want to make 1 public, 2 private or something like that? I did not understand. See, when you make your AMI public, it means anyone across the globe, any other AWS customer can use it. So why would you want to make it public? If it is your organization resources, why would you want to make it public firstly? Making your server public makes sense, but making your AMI public, I'm not sure why would someone want to do that. Madesh, is your question answered? If I terminate the original machine, right? Will still this AMI be existing? Yes, this machine, this AMI, everything would be existing. After launching this AMI, then it is chargeable. Instance is chargeable. The EC2 instance which you create, that is chargeable. There is no as such charge for using AMI. For storing this snapshot, there is charge. Okay. But the EC2 instance which you create, that is chargeable. Guys, is everyone clear? Can I move forward? Yes. Everyone, can I have quick confirmation? Are we all on the same page? Cool. So now moving a bit forward. Okay. With this, basically, we complete our module 4 discussion. Okay. Now we will start with our module 5. With this, we completed our module 4 discussion. We'll start with module 5. right? So, okay, any questions? What is FSX? So Vivek, FSX is nothing but a file storage or file system for your Windows. It's a file system for your Windows. You have EFS for your Linux and machines. For your Windows, you have FSX. Okay. And okay, since there's a question, I'll quickly even show you how EFS works. Okay. Give me one moment. I'll say Amazon EFS. I'll say create file system. Give a name. The choice is yours. Okay. I'll say create file system and I'll say create. So now my file system is getting created. My EFS is getting created. We already talked about what EFS is. Okay, my file system is getting created. Here on my EC2 instance, okay, that is terminated. Give me 1 second. I'll have to go back to my EC2 instance because the one which I was connected to, that was master server, and we terminated it since there was a question, right? So let me connect to this machine. So this is my EC2 instance. So here, when you want to work with your EFS, you need to first make a directory. Let's say make directory Prashant. Okay. I'll show you currently there is no file system added. Currently, there is no file system added. So I have made a directory called Prashant, right? And on the security group of this EC2 instance, on the security group of this EC2 instance, already I have allowed all traffic. I have already allowed all traffic. Okay. If all traffic is not allowed, we need to specifically allow NFS. We need to specifically allow NFS. But here I have already allowed all traffic. So I need not even worry because security group is all good then. So I should come back here, select this EFS. Okay. Say attach. Say mount via IP. Say mount via IP. My EC2 instance is in. Here we need to ensure which availability zone your EC2 instance is in. My EC2 instance is in South 1B. So I will say South 1B. I'll copy this. I'll copy this command. Come back here. Copy this. Come back here. Instead of this EFS, I'll give my directory name, which is Prashant. Okay. So now, earlier you noticed there was no file system with name Prashant. Now I'll say df minus h. Do you see file system in the Prashant directory here? Everyone? Yes. Let's be quick. Do you see this file system with in the directory called Prashant? Now pay attention. Now pay attention. So on this machine, okay, I'll say cd slash Prashant. Okay. Okay. So I changed my directory and I'm in the directory called Prashant, where my EFS is mounted. Okay, where my EFS is mounted. So here, for the purpose of demonstration, I'm just creating a file called vi demo. Okay, I'm creating vi demo. I'll say this is a demo file. If you are able to see this file in the other machine, then EFS is working. So pay attention. I have attached this your EFS on your EC2 instance, which is existing and running. Now I'm launching a new machine. I've created that file and all of that. Now I'm launching a new machine. I can use my own AMI rather than using custom. Guys, am I audible? Someone says I'm not audible. Just want to check. Am I audible? Vivek, please check at your end. Others are able to hear me. So I'm launching an EC2 instance. So I'm launching a new EC2 instance, waiting for it to come into running state. Okay, this is my newly launched EC2 machine. Okay, so I'll say command prompt, cd downloads, say connect, copy this. I want to log in as EC2 minus user. Excuse me. So I logged into my newly launched EC2 machine. Okay, so I'll say sudo minus I. Now here I'll say make dir any name. Let's call it as Edureka. I've created a directory called Edureka. Okay, and after doing that, I also show you currently there is no file system hosted here. So let's come back here. Let us see which availability zone is this instance part of. So it is part of South 1A. Come back here, say attach South 1A. This is the command. Copy. Get Edureka. So now I have mounted my EFS here on the newly launched instance. Now, if you pay attention, I have not created any file in this. Agree with me on newly launched machine? Yes or no? So this demo file, vi demo, we did not create on our newly launched machine. So let us say ls minus l. Do we have this demo file? Do we have this demo file here? Able to see this demo file on newly launched machine as well? Yes or no?
And now if I say CAD demo, this is a demo file. If you are able to see this file in another machine, then your EFS is working. What does it signify is your EFS is a common storage. Agree with me? Now let's say I'm creating a file called test here. Check if you see this file. Other EC2 machine. So I created this file in the newly launched machine. I go back to my old machine. I say ls minus l. Do I see file name test? Cat test. Check if you see this in other EC2 machine. So am I making sense what your EFS is? Everyone? Are we all clear? So it is kind of your shared storage amongst multiple instances, which you can mount on multiple machines. Similarly, for your Windows, you have FSX. Okay. For your Windows, this is for your Linux. EFS is for your Linux. For your Windows, you have FSX. I hope everyone is clear. So that was a quick demo of your EFS. Okay. So you can share your file system across multiple machines. Why there are two different file systems for Windows and Linux? So different operating system, the way they exchange information is different. That is why we have two different file systems. In Linux, we don't have C drive, D drive, E drive concept, right? And in Windows, we don't have directory based concepts, right? That is why two different file systems. All right. So that was about your EFS. Now moving a bit forward, talking about your module 5. As a part of your module 5, there are three major topics. There are three major topics which we will be discussing. We'll be talking about load balancer. We'll be talking about auto scaling. We'll be talking about Route 53. As part of your module 5, we'll be talking about load balancer, auto scaling, and Route 53. So starting with the first part of discussion, which is your load balancer. Starting with load balancer. Let us understand what is your load balancer. Before I start discussing, I want you guys to quickly help me understand what is your definition of load balancer. What is the purpose of load balancer according to all of you guys? To balance the traffic between various instances, simply balance the load on the servers for traffic depending on the load. It balancing the load of the server. Okay, everyone says load balancer doing the balancing of load. Wow, I agree to your point. Your load balancer basically would ensure even distribution of load amongst your servers. Okay, your load balancer will ensure even distribution of load amongst your servers. It will ensure no particular server is overutilized or no particular server is underutilized. Yes, agree with me. Now apart from that, load balancer is also used for an other purpose in an infrastructure. So let us understand that today. Okay, because everyone knows that load balancer will do balancing of load, right? As so many people said here. So apart from that, let's understand other purpose here. So let's say these are your servers. Now normally when there is no load balancer in an infrastructure, what happens? Try to understand that, and then we'll talk about load balancer also. Normally, when there is no load balancer in an infrastructure, user says www.xyz.com and traffic via internet is forwarded to one of the server. Let's say you have your application XYZ running on 2 servers. So traffic would be forwarded to one of this server. Yes or no? That's a normal way how the traffic works. So one of the problem would be there is no assurance that the load is evenly distributed. It could be possible that on one server, one server is highly utilized and another one is underutilized. That could be one of the possibility. But apart from that, I want to bring your attention to one important point. When there is no load balancer, can I say we are able to connect to servers directly? That means what? Your server is directly exposed to the internet. Yes or no? So right now, when you select this machine and you give the public IP address on your browser, so can I say my server is directly exposed to the internet? If I give this public IP address on my EC2 instance, that means what? My server is directly exposed to the internet. Agree with me, everyone? Yes or no? Now help me understand from a security standpoint of view. From a security standpoint of view, I want to understand from all of you guys, is it a good practice to keep your servers exposed to the internet? From a security standpoint of view, do you think it's a good practice to keep your servers exposed to the internet? Obviously, no. Obviously, no. So, by introducing load balancer, we are also securing our infrastructure. So, let's assume this is your load balancer. Now, what happens when a load balancer is introduced? Okay, let's call this as your load balancer. Now, what happens when a load balancer is introduced in an infrastructure? User would initiate traffic towards xyz.com. The traffic will hit the public IP address of your load balancer, and load balancer indeed would initiate connection with the server, right? The connection between load balancer and user would be on the public IP address. This connection would be on the public IP address. Okay, and this connection between server to load balancer will be on private IP address. So this way what happens is, according to user, the application xyz.com is sitting here. According to server, the user is this. So user does not know where your server is and server does not know who your user is. Load balancer act as an intermediate between them. So your servers are no more directly exposed to the internet. Am I making sense, everyone? By introducing load balancer in your infrastructure, you are ensuring your servers are no more exposed to the internet directly. So from a security standpoint of view, you can rest assured that yes, the identity of your server is protected and user would never know where your servers are. Okay, because the connection between user to load balancer is one different connection, and connection between load balance to server is an other connection. Okay, so that way identity of your servers can be protected. Now let's come back. Let's start this configuration. Let's start with this configuration. Okay, so I already have two servers, server 1 and server 2. So I just want to make some changes in the configuration. So I'll say cd/var. I'll use this existing server. I'm deleting the existing index.html file. Sorry. And I'm configuring a new one. Done. One of this is configured. Let us see which one we did configure. Okay. So this one, the older one. So it says website from EC21, right? So also let us do it for the other machine. I'm deleting the existing HTML. I say vi index.html and I'm introducing a new one. Done. So I changed the code on both. For one, it is saying EC2 -1. Other one, it says EC2 -2. Okay. So done. The configuration is done. So I'll say EC2 -1 is this. And I'll name this as EC2 -2. Okay. Them to be in order. Cool. Okay. So we have configured these two servers. My servers are there. Now I need to introduce load balancer. Right now my servers are directly exposed to the internet, if you notice. Okay. I'm able to access my server IP address directly over the internet. So now I'm going to introduce load balancer in this environment. So to introduce load balancer on the same EC2 console, if I scroll down in the left pane, I have something called as load balancing. So I click on load balancers. I click on load balancers, right? There are different types of load balancer. There are different types of load balancer. You have application load balancer, you have network load balancer, you have classic load balancer, and you have gateway load balancer. As part of our exam curriculum, we need to focus on application load balancer and network load balancer. Okay. So talking about your application load balancer understands only two protocols, HTTP and HTTPS. The application load balancer works on layer 7 of your OSI model and it understands only two protocols, HTTP and HTTPS. In case if your application is listening on any other protocol, application load balancer is not a suitable choice. Okay. In case you want to perform load balancing for FTP, SFTP, SSH or some other protocol apart from HTTP and HTTPS, then your application load balancer is not a suitable choice. So there you might consider using your network load balancer. There you should consider using your network load balancer. Now network load balancer understands all your TCP UDP protocols. So major difference, pay attention, your application load balancer will understand only HTTP and HTTPS. Okay. The application load balancer will understand only HTTP and HTTPS. And your network load balancer listens on all the port like your TCP, UDP, TLS and all of that. So if your application works on HTTP and HTTPS, use application load balancer. If any other, then use network load balancer. Are we all clear till here? Everyone, a quick confirmation would help. Cool. So now I'm going to launch an application load balancer here, and I'll show you what is the difference between application network. So on this window, I have launched application, and here you notice only HTTP and HTTPS. That is your application load balancer. Now other parameters are all same here, even here, but only difference is it listens on TCP, TLS, UDP, TCP, UDP. That is your network load balancer. Rest of the functioning is all same. Rest of the functioning is all same. Guys, am I making sense? If your application listens on HTTP and HTTPS, use application load balancer. If it listens on any other port, any other protocol apart from HTTP and HTTPS, then you can leverage your TCP, TLS, UDP, any of this protocols. And that you need to use network load balancer. Clear? Pawan, is your question answered? So if you have an application which listens on UDP and also on HTTP, use your network load balancer. Okay. So right now I'm going ahead with the launch of your application load balancer. So I'll name this as demo. Then it is asking me for a scheme. Scheme is nothing but, do you want to make your application accessible over internet, or it should be accessible only within the network? You want your application to be accessible over internet. If yes, then say internet facing. If it is to be accessible only within your network, then say internal. That means what? If you have an application ABC, and if your users are across the internet, then it makes sense to keep your application hosted over internet. Or you have created an application which should be accessible only within your network, only within your LAN segment, right? Only within your intranet. Then say internal. So right now, help me understand, should I be creating an internet facing or internal? Assuming all of you guys are my users. So should I be creating an internet facing or internal? Obviously, internet facing. Agree with me? Because all of you guys are going to access this application over internet. Yes or no? So it cannot be internal. It should be internet facing. So I say internet facing. Okay. Then IP address type, do you want to allow IPv4 or dual stack? Dual stack is nothing which supports both your IPv4 and your IPv6. Then it will ask for on which protocol should your load balancer listen upon. So when it is asking this information, it is about this port. From your user to your load balancer should be listening on which protocol and which port number. So I say HTTP port number 80. Okay. And in which availability zone do you want to define your load balancer in or deploy your load balancer in? So I say South 1A and South 1B for the purpose of high availability. Okay. I'm deploying in multiple availability zone. By default, you'll have to deploy your load balancer in more than one availability zone. If you select only one availability zone, it will throw you an error. So like now, if I select only this, and if I say next configure, at least two subnets must be specified. That means at least two availability zone has to be used while configuring your load balancer. So your load balancer has to be configured in high availability, right? So I say next configure security group. Here you create a security group. This security group is for your load balancer. When the traffic is coming to this load balancer, if you want to filter out certain amount of traffic, you don't want to allow certain users, you don't want to allow traffic from certain IP address, then you have a separate, security group for that. So I say ELB-SG. Okay. Next, configure routing. Now, in this step, what you're going to define is the traffic from user to load balancer has come here. Now, how does your load balancer know that at the backend towards which server should I forward this traffic? Do you think load balancer will understand on its own, or it needs to be defined? What is your thought around it? User has initiated traffic called www.xyz.com. Okay. User has initiated traffic for www.xyz.com. Okay. So will your load balancer automatically understand out of hundreds of server in your infrastructure towards which server should I forward? No, you need to define that. So that you're basically telling if there is a traffic for xyz.com, you route traffic towards this list of server. And that is why it says configure routing. That is why it says configure routing. And you need to create something called as target group. So let's call this as demo 03. Okay. And do you want to route traffic on the basis of instance ID, on the basis of IP address, or on the basis of other parameters like your lambda? Okay. So when I say instance ID, please understand very clearly here. Instance ID is nothing but every instance has a unique instance ID. Okay. So when the traffic comes to your load balancer, do you want load balancer to forward on the basis of instance ID or IP address? We'll talk about lambda in our upcoming modules. Okay. So if you want load balancer to send traffic on the basis of IP address, then say IP. If you want it to forward on the basis of instance ID, then say instance. Are we clear, everyone? Guys, can I have quick confirmation? Are we clear? Am I making sense so far? Yes, no. Some responses would be good enough for me to move forward. Thank you. So right now I'm selecting instance as target type. So next it is asking for protocol. So protocol is nothing but the protocol on which your servers are listening. This. So the communication between your load balancer and your server should happen on which port and which protocol. Okay. So that is what you define here. So I have defined here. Then here we have something about health check. So we'll discuss about health check once our load balancer is created. Right now we'll move forward. Then we'll define towards which all server. So I say register this server. These are the list of servers towards which your load balancer should forward the traffic. Select this and say add to registered. Okay. Then say next review. Just to verify all your information. Then say create. Done. My load balancer creation is in progress. And this is the URL of my load balancer. Right now it is getting deployed. Let us wait for it to be completely deployed. Okay, it would take few minutes because it is under provisioning state. This is the URL of your load balancer, and here you should be able to see the outcomes. Meanwhile, anyone has any question? Any questions from anyone? So end users will access through load balancer URL? Absolutely yes. How can we configure the DNS URL based on our requirement? We will discuss that in some time. Don't worry. Is there a separate cost for your load balancer? Yes, load balancer comes with separate cost. There's additional charges to it. So now you notice this. My load balancer is up and running. And if I refresh this, I'm able to see request 1 from EC2 1, request 2 from EC2 2. So does that signify that my load balancing is happening? Yes or no? One request is going towards my server 1, that is EC2 1. Another one is towards EC2 2. On your browsers, you can check that out. Okay. So this basically signifies what? This signifies that your load balancing is happening. This signifies your load balancing is happening. Agree with me, everyone? Yes. But will my active session terminate? You mean the directly connected server session? Amar, is that your context of question? No, not yet. Not yet. We'll talk about it. Allow me a few minutes. We'll talk about it. There is some additional configuration that needs to be done. But right now, if you notice, okay, you see this traffic getting switched between server 1 and server 2 when you refresh. That means what? My load balancer is evenly distributing traffic towards the server. Agree with me on this without any doubt? Yeah. So now let's come back to this diagram once. As a user, you're saying www.xyz.com, your traffic is sitting in your load balancer, and load balancer at the back end is initiating separate connection with the server. So help me understand, on the security group of server, should I be allowing traffic from everywhere? On the security group of the EC2 instances, should I allow traffic from everywhere? Inbound traffic from everywhere? Yes or no? Or should I restrict it with certain things? Obviously, it would make more sense if I allow traffic only from my load balancer. Yes or no? It would make more sense if I restrict it with load balancer's IP address alone. Rather than allowing it from everywhere, I should restrict it with my load balancer's IP address alone. So let us come back here on the server. Okay. I say cd/var/log cd httpd tail -f access_log. Now I want to bring your attention. To this 4 lines. Now, if you notice this 4 lines, line number 1 and 3, okay, line number 1 and 3 has the same IP address. Line number 2 and 4 has the same IP address. Yes or no? Your line number 1 and 3 has the same IP address. Line number 2 and 4 has the same IP address. Now I want you guys to help me understand what are these IP addresses for? To which device does they belong to? These are not your server IP address, okay? These are not your internet end user IP address. Please be informed. Load balancer, I have only one load balancer. Why would I have two IP address? I'll show you here on the window load balancer. I have created only one load balancer. So why will I have two IP addresses? Any guesses? This does not belong to your servers. This does not belong to your users because you have two instances. No. If I have 100 instances, then will it show me 100 IP addresses here? Absolutely no. Come on. Any other guess? Inbound, outbound, no. No. Private and public, both are your private IP addresses. Get request from load balancer. No, I understand this is a get request and all of that. But help me understand what are these IP addresses for? These are the IPs from where HTTP via access? No. Okay. Let me tell you. Okay, now comes a correct answer from Manoj Kumar. Remember, we deployed our load balancer in two availability zone. These are your load balancer's IP address. These are your load balancer's IP address. I asked you guys, we have only one load balancer, but why two IP address? No one responded to it. And people started guessing in and around. Guys, these IP addresses are nothing but your load balancer's IP address. And someone also said that these are your load balancer IP address. But when asked, we have only one load balancer, how come we have two IP address? No one responded. If you recall, while creating our load balancer, in how many availability zone did I deploy my load balancer? Two availability zone. Yes or no? Each availability zone is a different physical data center. Agree? Each availability zone is a different physical data center. Yes. Now, since they are two different physical data center, can I say they will have two different range of network? Yes. The IP range would vary, right? Obviously, yes, IP address or IP range would vary. So, one range is from your South 1A availability zone, other range is from your South 1B availability zone. So, these are IP addresses of your load balancers. Since we deployed our load balancer in two availability zone, so we have two different IP address. Are we all clear? So now come back to this diagram. Can I restrict on the security group of your EC2 instance with this range of IP addresses? With these two IP addresses? Because we understand the traffic to this server is only coming via load balancer. Why should I allow traffic from everywhere else? Agree with me? So let's come back here. Come to your EC2 instance. Say security. So on both I have associated same security group. So I say edit inbound traffic, edit inbound traffic. I say HTTP allow from this. Okay, save the rule. Now if you notice, I allowed HTTP traffic only from these two IP addresses, and SSH I have allowed from everywhere. So now if you directly try connecting to my server, it will not be working, and via load balancer it will still work. I'm able to see outcome via load balancer, but direct access it is still buffering. Okay, eventually it will tell me site not reachable, site can't be reached. So now can I say my servers are no more exposed to the internet? Yes, my servers are no more exposed to the internet. Guys, are we all clear? Everyone? So now connection to my servers is only via load balancer. I cannot access my servers directly. From a security standpoint of view, now I'm covered. Okay, I don't have, I mean, the security risk which was persisting earlier is no more persisting. So now let us understand, one more thing. If I bring down one of the server, let's say if I'm bringing down server 2, I say stop. Will my load balancer continue forwarding traffic towards server 2, or it will follow forward all your traffic towards your server 1? So I've stopped this instance. There is no traffic going to server 2. As an end user, I will never know if the server 2 is down. All my traffic is going only towards server 1. So does it signify that if you have multiple servers and one of the server goes down, your load balancer will switch over all the traffic only towards the remaining available server? Only those server which are healthy, load balancer will forward traffic towards them. If any server which are unhealthy or which are unavailable, your load balancer will not forward any traffic. So this way your load balancer ensures fault tolerance and high availability. As an end customer, you would never realize if any server is down at the back end. Am I making sense? Vivek, is your question answered? Now, how does your load balancer know? How does your load balancer know that this server is healthy or unhealthy? How is your load balancer able to understand whether the server is healthy or unhealthy? So basically what happens is your load balancer performs continuously something called as health checks. Your load balancer performs something called as health check. Now what is health check? Try to understand very clearly. While configuring your load balancer under your step 4, there was an option called health check. Okay, I'll just show you that once again. So this option, I said that I'll talk about it later. So this is your health check option. So because of this parameter, your load balancer is able to quickly understand and determine or confirm that one of the server is up or down. All these details are available. Okay. So this health check is a continuous process. Health check is a continuous process. So I want to quickly bring your attention to this 4 lines. Okay. Now between line number 1 and 3 and between line number 2 and 4, apart from IP address, what else is different? Between line number 1 and 3, line number 2 and 4, apart from IP addresses, what else do you think is different? Everyone? Timestamp. Yes? Timestamp. Right? So time difference between 1 and 3 is 30 seconds. Time difference between 2 and 4 is 30 seconds. Yes or no? The time difference between line number 1 and 3 is 30 seconds. And between 2 and 4 also it is 30 seconds. Right? So now understand why this 30 seconds. Let's assume that I am a load balancer. Pay attention to this to understand the health check part. Let's assume that I am a load balancer and you guys are server. Okay, let us take the roles that I am load balancer and you guys are your servers. So in the health check, I have defined that interval as 30 seconds. Now what does this 30-second interval means? Every 30 seconds, I'll check with you. Hey guys, are you healthy? Hey guys, are you healthy? Every 30 seconds, I'll probe you. And I will allow you 5 seconds of time for you to respond back to me. I'll allow you 5 seconds of time for you to respond back to me. Timeout value. I ask you, hey guys, are you healthy? And within 5 seconds, I should receive your response. Okay. And if I receive your response as healthy, then I'll mark that success code as 200. That is why here you notice 200 everywhere. This 200, right? This is nothing but success code. Yes, you're healthy. This signifies that yes, this server is healthy. So every 30 seconds, I'll ask you, hey, are you there? I'll allow you 5 seconds. If you're healthy, you should respond. And if you respond, I'll mark that success code as 200. The health check succeeded. Okay. If I don't receive your response within 5 seconds, then I'll mark you as unhealthy. Now, marking unhealthy and stop forwarding traffic towards you are two different things. Let's say I ask you, hey guys, are you there? Within 5 seconds, I did not receive your response. I'll mark you unhealthy. Now again, after 30 seconds, I ask you, hey guys, are you there? Again, within 5 seconds, I did not receive your response. Then, as per this configuration, number of unhealthy threshold, number of times I did not receive your response. If this threshold breaches, after this, I'll stop forwarding traffic towards you. So I ask you, hey, are you there? Okay. I ask you, hey, are you there? Within 5 seconds, if I receive your response, then I consider you to be healthy. I did not receive your response, I mark you unhealthy. But how long before I stop forwarding traffic towards you is determined using this unhealthy threshold. So unhealthy threshold 2 means I ask you, are you there? I did not receive your response within 5 seconds. Again, after 30 seconds, I ask you, hey, are you there? I did not receive your response. Continuously for 2 times, if I did not receive your response, then I'll mark you unhealthy and I'll stop forwarding traffic towards you. Are we all clear? Everyone? Yes? So then comes your healthy threshold. Then comes your healthy threshold. Now, what is healthy threshold? Let's say server went down. Let's say the server went down. Your load balancer is continuously checking, hey, are you healthy, are you healthy, are you healthy? Okay, now if you guys pay attention or not, it does not make difference to me, right? My job is to keep checking with you, hey guys, are you there? Are we clear? Are we clear? Are we clear? Now whether you respond, you don't respond, that is your choice. Agree with me? Similarly, load balancer continuously keep asking, hey, are you healthy, are you healthy, are you healthy, are you healthy? Now whether servers are responding or not, if server is up and running, it would respond. If server is not up and running, it would not respond. But load balancer will continuously probe your server. Now let's say server went down, you did some troubleshooting, now the server is up and running. The moment server comes up and running, your load balancer will not start forwarding traffic towards that server. It says that I understand that you're available now, but you need to pass your health test. Now what is this health test? So I ask you, hey, are you healthy? Within 5 seconds I should receive your response. And how many times? For 5 continuous such occurrence, I should receive your response within 5 seconds. I ask you, hey, are you healthy? You respond, okay. That would be considered as one success. After 30 seconds, again I ask you, hey, are you healthy? Again, within 5 seconds, if I receive your response, that would be considered as second threshold. Again, after 30 seconds, I ask you, hey, are you healthy? And I receive your response. That would be considered as third. Like this continuously for 5 probes. If server responds to the load balancer request within the timeout value, right? Then load balancer will consider that server to be healthy and will start forwarding traffic towards that server. Are we all clear about the health check part? Everyone? Yes. And you can configure your own time interval depending on your business requirement. Okay. You can define your own intervals as per your choice. It's not mandatory to use this interval alone. You can even make this as 10 seconds. The choice is yours. Okay. The choice is yours. Now here, if you notice one thing, it says port, traffic port or override port. It says port as traffic port or your override port. Now, what is your traffic port? If the health checks happens on the same port on which your application is running, that is, if you notice on this server code, so on the same port, I'm able to see user request. On the same port, I'm able to see health check request. So this is nothing but your traffic port. Am I making sense? The same port on which your health check as well as your application traffic is working, that is referred to as traffic port. Now I let my application work on port number 80 and I want my health check to happen on some other port, let's say 80, 81 or some other port. Okay, then that is called as override port. Are we all clear? Yes. Vivek, is your question answered? Cool. So that's about your load balancer. Now, anyone has any question, then please do let me know. If not, we'll move forward. Override port is nothing but by default, when you select traffic port, your health check and your application traffic, okay, both happens on the same port. Okay, that is your traffic port. Now, override port is nothing but I want my health checks to happen on any other port, not on my traffic port. This health check parameters which are coming continuously, you notice this? So I don't want this to come on my traffic port or the port on which my application is running. I want those to happen on any other port. Then I say override port. Are we clear now, Pawan? Yes. Cool.
So that is your load balancer. Any questions before I move forward with the next part of discussion? Any questions? Remember, now load balancer is just not meant for, balancing the load. Please remember, you can use your load balancer to protect your infrastructure, or ensure your servers are not exposed to the internet. Yes. So going forward, if anyone asks you what is the purpose of load balancer in infrastructure, obviously it is used for the distribution of load. Okay. But apart from that, it also helps you secure your infrastructure by not letting your servers being exposed to the internet directly. Clear, everyone? What is the difference between your load balancer and firewall? Firewall is basically a kind of, gatekeeper kind. Okay. Which will inspect your traffic and allow your traffic. Firewall will not do distribution of traffic. Firewall is just an, transit. Load balancer is distributing loads to the backend servers. So now drawing your attention to one of the important part here. This part. Right now, when you see, I'm accessing my application. Okay. I'm accessing my application. And here, if you notice, while accessing my application, the URL which I have defined here, okay, the URL which I have defined here is telling demo dot something something AWS Amazon.com, right? So as an organization, would you want to use this kind of URLs? As an organization, would you want to use this kind of URLs, or you would like to use your own organization specific URL telling xyz.com, abc.com, something like that? Obviously, you would like to use your own URL. Agree with me? Great. So if you want to use your own domains, right? If you want to use your own domain or you want to use your own URL, then it is possible using a service called as Route 53. It is possible using a service called as Route 53. Now, before that, let us understand what is Route 53, and then we'll see some demo around this. Okay. So Route 53 is basically your DNS service from AWS. Now, how many of you guys here understand what is DNS? What is DNS? How many of you guys understand that? No, I know the abbreviation of it, but what I'm trying to understand is, do you understand what your DNS is? How it works? All right, couple of people say yes, majority says no. All right, not a problem. Not a problem. Let us understand what is DNS, why did it come into existence, and how it works. So your DNS is nothing but a kind of directory or a database. Your DNS is nothing but kind of directory or a database. Okay. So let us understand more about it. Let us understand more about it. You open your browser and you say www.google.com, facebook.com, youtube.com, bbc.com, xyz.com, right? Do you think your machine understands the alphabets which you type? You open your browser and you say so many different URLs. Do you think your machine understands the alphabets which you type there? Yes, no. Okay, some says yes, some says no. Okay, not a problem. We'll understand this also, whether your machine understands or not. Okay. So to help you understand DNS more easily, in your mobile phone, you have hundreds of contacts. How many numbers you remember out of those hundreds of contacts? How many numbers do you remember? Hardly 10, maximum, maximum 10 numbers, not beyond that. Yes, even if you have hundreds of contacts, you remember only 10 numbers out of it. But do you remember hundreds of names? Do you remember hundreds of names? Yes or no? Everyone says yes, right? So now understand, why did DNS come into existence and what your DNS is. DNS is nothing but your domain name service, your domain name system. Basically, it is a kind of mapping to your domain name with IP address. Okay. So you have your domain name to IP address mapping, and this is done using your DNS. So DNS have a DNS server. Okay. There you have something called as DNS server. DNS server act as a database. This database has mapping of domain and IP. Domain to IP address mapping. Domain to IP address mapping is what it has in the DNS server. Now, we humans cannot remember numbers. Now, every day we access so many different websites, but we don't know IP address of even single website. We access so many different websites, but we don't know IP address of even single website. Forget other websites, even the google.com, the commonly accessed website by all of us, we don't know the IP address of google.com as well, right? So what it is understood is, we humans are bad at remembering numbers. We humans are bad at remembering numbers, and machines are bad at understanding your languages. Humans cannot remember numbers, machine cannot understand your language, right? So basically, someone in India says in English www.xyz.com. Someone in Japan will write in Japanese on the browser. Someone in Germany will write in German. Someone in Russia writes in Russian. So across the world, can I say people use different language in the browser? Yes or no? And your machine cannot understand all of this. Your machine does not understand human language. Your machine understands only binary. Your machine understands only binary. That is nothing but your zeros and ones. 0 and 1. Your machine understands only 0 and 1. So the moment you open your browser and you say www.xyz.com or any URL, the very first thing, your machine starts panicking. Your machine says, hey, this person is talking something different language I don't understand. So that is where your DNS comes into picture. Your DNS comes into picture. So the moment you open your browser and you say www.xyz.com, your machine will generate DNS query. Your machine will generate DNS query towards the DNS server. It will say in DNS query what? Tell me IP of xyz.com. Now your DNS server will see this query, will check its database. Okay. In DNS server, it will check its database and it will generate DNS response and send the reply back to the machine telling that xyz.com, the IP address is, let's say 1.1.1. Then your machine will convert this 1.1.1 into binary and it will start forwarding your traffic. So the moment you open your browser, you say any URL for that case, the very first thing which will take place is your DNS query. The very first thing that will take place is your DNS query. And DNS query is raised by your machine towards your DNS server. Your DNS server will respond with DNS response and provide the IP detail of that particular domain. Okay. Now, why this service is called as Route 53? Because your DNS works on port number 53 of UDP protocol. DNS works on port 53 of your UDP protocol. That is why Route 53. 53 is nothing but a port number of your DNS. Are we all clear why DNS is into existence? Everyone? Why 53? Because the port number of your DNS, HTTP listens on port number 80. HTTPS listens on port number 443. Right? Similarly, your DNS works on port number 53. Making sense, Nimai? The default port number of HTTPS is 443. Default port of your HTTP is 80. Similarly, for your DNS, it is 53. TCP and UDP are two transport layer protocols. TCP and UDP are two transport layer protocol. So your DNS works on UDP, your HTTPS works on TCP. So let's understand. Let's come back here. So I say Route 53. Say Route 53. Route 53 is a DNS service from AWS. That means what? It will manage your DNS servers. Now AWS gives you a choice. If you want to purchase a domain from AWS, say registered domain, you can purchase your domain from AWS also. Okay, let's say demo.com. So I can check if the domain is available. Instead of purchasing it from GoDaddy or other vendors, I can purchase here as well. I can purchase domain here also. Okay. So AWS says you can purchase domain from us if you want, or if you don't want, let's say you already have your domain purchased. You already have your domain purchased. You are migrated from your on-premise to cloud. So you already have your domain purchased. So you can host that domain here. Like for example, right now I have my domain purchased. Okay, allow me one moment. I'll show you. Give me one moment. Okay, I'll log in. So I have my domain purchased from Freenom, and here is my domain. So I purchased my domain from third-party vendor, prashantgyan.tk. This is my domain which I purchased from third-party vendor. So if I want to host this domain in AWS, so I say create hosted zone. I say create hosted zone, and I provide my domain name. And do you want your domain to be publicly accessible? If yes, say public. If it should be within your network, say private. So right now I want it to be publicly accessible. Now the moment I say this, it will enter my details in the 4 AWS DNS server. So details of my domain would be updated on this 4 servers. So I need to configure this name server detail in my service provided info database, so that anyone who is trying to access this, it knows where to look for the details, where to look for the associated IP address. So these are the 4 servers where associated IP address with this particular domain can be referenced. So these are 4 DNS server where my data is updated or where my details are updated. Okay, so pay attention. So I change my name server. So I updated my name servers. I updated my name servers now. I come back here. Okay. I say create record. Create record. I say alias. I can say anything here. Let's call it as demo.prashantgan.tk. Where do you want forward traffic towards? If someone says demo.prashantgan.tk, where should the traffic be routed? So I say route the traffic towards my application load balancer. Which region? Mumbai region. Is this your load balancer? Yes. Say create route. Create record. So now I open my browser. I say demo.prashantgan.tk. Do you see this outcome? Everyone? So now can I say I have used my own domain rather than using anything provided by AWS? Yes. Am I making sense? So I can purchase domain from AWS and use it. Or if I already have a domain purchased, then I can host that on AWS. And this is your demo.prashantgan.tk. That is my domain. Are we all clear? Everyone, are we clear? Awesome. So now, one more thing which I want to talk about. With your DNS, right? When you create your records, you have a choice. Is the prefix of demo, is that mandatory? No. No. I can edit that record. Let's say edit record, remove it directly on my domain. So now this will not work, okay, because I have removed that record. Cool. The choice is always yours, okay? So one more thing which I wanted to highlight, you create your record. While creating record, okay, AWS allows you multiple routing options. Simple routing is what we chose. Simple routing is nothing but someone says www.demo. or prashantgan.tk and traffic forwarded towards respective server. That is your simple routing. Then you have something called as weighted routing. Weighted routing is when you want to route traffic on the basis of the weightage. Let's say I have my application hosted behind 2 different load balancers, load balancer A and load balancer B. Let's say A is in region 1, this is in region 2. Okay, Mumbai and Singapore, let's assume that. So I want to send 60% of traffic on region 1, that is in Mumbai region, and remaining 40% I want to send towards my other region. Then that is your weighted routing. Okay, and I have my infrastructure hosted in multiple regions. I can decide how the traffic has to be forwarded. How much of proportion of traffic I want to forward towards one region and how much should I forward towards other region. I can define that. That is your weighted. Geolocation. Geolocation is nothing but if I want all my Indian user traffic to go to my Mumbai region load balancer and all my Singapore, user traffic should go to my Singapore load balancer, that is your geolocation. That is your geolocation, right? So you can achieve that by selecting geolocation. Latency. Now when I have infrastructure, any question from anyone? Someone is raising hand. Any question? Guys, if you have question, shoot your question rather than raising your hands. Guys, are we all clear? Can I move forward? Did you understand simple routing, weighted and geolocation? Everyone? Geolocation is nothing but if I want all my Singapore users traffic to go to Singapore location and if I want all my Indian users traffic to go to Indian location, that is your geolocation. Clear? Next, talking about latency. Latency is nothing but when you have your infrastructure hosted in two different locations, Mumbai and Singapore. From user, which is the minimum latency, right? Traffic will be auto forwarded towards, traffic would be auto forwarded towards that particular location. Okay. Are we clear? Then you have failover. Then you have failover. Failover is nothing but when you have your infrastructure hosted in Mumbai, you have your infrastructure hosted in Singapore. By default, you want your Mumbai to be primary. All your traffic would be, handled by your Mumbai region. In case if your Mumbai region goes down, you want to switch over all your traffic to your Singapore location. That is your failover setup. You can achieve that using your DNS again. Okay. And then you have multi-value answer. Multi-value answer is nothing but if you have your infrastructure hosted in multiple location, it will, as a part of your DNS query, it will respond with an IP address. That these are the IP address of your Mumbai location, IP address of your Singapore location, and let your machine decide where the traffic has to be forwarded. Clear? The choice will be with your machine, user machine. That is your multi-value answer. Latency, understand? Okay. Latency is nothing but you have in Mumbai region, you have in Singapore region. I am a user one. I say www.xyz.com. So DNS will check if this user one wants to access infrastructure, which will give minimum latency. Is Mumbai giving it takes 2 milliseconds for Mumbai and it takes 3 milliseconds for Singapore, then it will automatically forward my traffic towards Mumbai location. Vidika, making sense? Yes. So which will, from the user point of view, which will have minimum latency, accordingly it will forward traffic towards that location. Multi-value answer is nothing but, see, all this while if you would have noticed your DNS server was taking decision on behalf of user. Let it be geolocation, let it be failover, let it be, your other latency and all of that. Can I say DNS was taking decision on behalf of user? Yes or no? If geolocation is enabled, your DNS takes responsibility to forward towards appropriate location. If latency is enabled, your DNS takes a responsibility of forwarding traffic towards a location where there is minimal latency, right? If there is a weighted, your geolocation takes place, right? That responsibility, your DNS takes responsibility of that. In multi-value answer, what your DNS says, I will resolve that domain name to the IP address, and I'll provide this IP address to the user machine. Now let user machine decide where it wants to forward traffic towards. Will multi-value have performance related issue? Not really. See, all this while your DNS was taking the care of latency and everything. Now user machine has to take care of that. Clear? Everyone, are we clear? So with this, we complete our Route 53. With this, we complete our Route 53 load balancing on AWS. I hope you all enjoyed the session. I hope you all got to learn something new today. So with that note, I would like to rest my words. If anyone has any question, then please do let me know. If not, yes, we are done with our today's session. Thank you so much for all your time and patience. I really appreciate it. I still see many of you guys have not marked your feedback. It would be great if you can take few minutes to quickly mark your feedbacks. So please mark your feedbacks without fail. Any questions from anyone? We have completed module 5 as well. No, in module 5 we have auto scaling which is pending. Okay, so we'll do that in our tomorrow's session. Okay, now, okay, Prasanna says I have stopped. So Prasanna, did you stop that instance or did you terminate that instance? First, can you confirm? You stopped it, right? So on your dashboard, do you see it is filtered using running? Can you clear this filter? So do you see your instance available there? No? All right. Can you quickly present your screen? And are you sure in which region you launched your instance? You're in the same region? By any chance, if you have changed your region, you'll not be able to see your instance. So are you in the same region? Can you confirm that as well? Okay, can you quickly log in and confirm that? If you have that setup ready, please let me know. I would like to see that setup because ideally it should be visible. You have the setup ready. Can you log in and present me your screen? So one of the thing which I could think of is your region was not same. Other thing, maybe the filter you did not clear because ideally your instance should be available. And if your instance is available, all you have to do is select that instance. Okay. Select that instance, say instance state and say start.
Here it is showing me stop because I'm terminating it. You should select start and your instance should get started. Okay, cool. So let me know, try this and let me know tomorrow, because you say you're not able to log in right now, then yeah, I'll leave it up to you. But yeah, please do try and let me know. All right, any other question from anyone? All right, guys, if no questions from anyone, then I think, yes, we are done with our today's session. Thank you so much for all your time and patience. I'll see you all tomorrow. Till then, bye-bye, take care. Please do not forget to mark your feedbacks. I look forward to your feedback. Signing off for the day, guys. Thank you.